Hi, folks. It's Marvin Music with MedicareSchool.com, and we want to welcome you to this live stream event. For tonight, it is Thursday. Is Thursday? Is that right? Thursday? What are we? Yeah, Thursday. Yeah, night, evening, 5 o'clock here in Overland Park, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City. This is our home office. We're actually in my studio along with our producer, Daniel. And we're looking forward to having a great event tonight, hopefully provide some great help and information for you. As always, we'd love to know where you're viewing in from around the country. You can put your city and state in here. We would love to know that. And if you're a client as well, you can put something to that effect as well. And then I want to let you know I am going to cover a topic tonight that we're calling the 3 most dangerous lies that seniors believe about Medicare. I'm going to give you actually a fourth one as a bonus. But we'll be covering that here in just a minute. But I do want to let you know that is an opportunity for you to ask your questions. And so right now you can start putting those questions in the chat. And then once I'm done with my just kind of brief presentation about these 3 big lies, then I'll begin to answer those questions. And if you want to ask anything about Social Security, Medicare, feel free to do so. And then we'll try to get to as many as we can. I usually wear out within about an hour and a half or so. But we'll go for quite some time tonight, and would love to be of help to you. And then do keep this in mind. If you're looking for some immediate help, we are brokers. We'd be delighted to assist you. We do write plans in all 50 states. We write supplemental plans, drug plans, Advantage plans, so really anything you need Medicare, we can assist. I think there's an 800 number that you'll see that'll roll there at the bottom of your screen. Our switchboard is open right now. Again, we're on Central Time, so the switchboard tonight, I'm pretty sure closes at 6, maybe 7. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask Daniel on that one, but I think tonight we're open till, we are open till 7 Central Time, and then on Fridays till 6. So our switchboard is 7 to 7, Monday to Thursday, and then 7 to 6 on Fridays. And so we'd be delighted to help you with really whatever your needs are. If I can't take care of you tonight and you really do need some very specific information about certain plans, prices, and comparisons and all that, please give us a call. We're brokers, so we write for lots of companies. And the good news is for you, there's no cost at all for our services. Really, any agent that you do cannot charge you anything because we're actually paid a commission by insurance companies. That's how we make a living. And so we're totally free to you. Be delighted to serve as your Medicare broker. All right. Pardon me? Till 7. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So 7 to 7 tonight. All right, so let's get into this topic, the 3 most dangerous lies seniors believe about Medicare. The first one is this. Many believe that as they're approaching Medicare eligibility, that they are required to enroll into Medicare A even if they keep working. And that's not true. Most people hear that. It is misinformation that's been repeated so many times that people act upon it. And I'm going to explain why this is a lie and why really it matters to you. And so I want to clarify something. Folks, there are some people that have to start Medicare A and B at 65, meaning you have to. And that is very simple. Simply put, there are 5 groups of people that have to start Medicare A and B at 65, and that's anyone who is no longer working or your spouse is no longer working, meaning you do not have an employer-provided plan available to you. You have to go on Medicare A and B at 65. The second group would be anyone that's on COBRA. Again, you may keep COBRA, and this is going to be one of the lies I'm going to explain in a minute, but you have to go on Medicare A and B at 65 because COBRA only pays second to Medicare once you're 65. Third group is anyone that is retired military. You have TRICARE for life insurance. Same thing. TRICARE moves the second payer position. You have to enroll into A and B to put them in the first payer position. TRICARE pays second. Fourth, anyone that is still working and you're covered by an employer-provided plan, by yours or your spouse's, and there's 19 employees on the payroll or fewer, you have to go on Medicare at 65 A and B because the group plan, again, goes to the second payer position. And then lastly, anyone that's on an ACA plan. You went through the healthcare.gov site, the healthcare exchange, and you bought an ACA, Affordable Care Act plan. What happens with those plans, technically you can keep them, but you would never want to. Because what makes ACA plans attractive, one of the things, is that there are some incentives that come with ACA plans. Reduced premiums, cost sharing paid by the government, tax subsidies. So all of those financial incentives go away at 65. So if you stay on an ACA plan at 65, you'll pay the full premium, you'll pay the full deductible, the full max out of pocket. And so there's no reason to keep an ACA plan once you're Medicare eligible. All right. And so that's the group that has to go on Medicare at 65, which means there's one group that doesn't have to do anything at all with Medicare. You don't have to do A, you don't have to do B, and that's anyone who is still working or your spouse is still working, so you're covered by this active employment provided plan, and there's 20 employees on the payroll or more. You don't have to do anything with Medicare A, don't have to do anything with Medicare B. Why does it matter? Because if you are on a group plan and you have an HSA, Health Savings Account, that you want to continue to contribute to, if you enroll in Medicare Part A and take A only because you think you're going to be penalized, then you can no longer put new money into your HSA. Your HSA is your money, but you can't continue to fund that. And so that's why I'm saying I wouldn't do A, certainly wouldn't do B either. Keep funding that HSA. And then once you get ready to retire, then you can stop your contributions to your HSA, actually 6 months before you retire. And so my point is you do not have to do Medicare A only, especially don't do it if you have an HSA. Now, if you don't have an HSA and you're going to continue to work or your spouse is, it is fine to do Medicare A only. In fact, I would encourage you to do it. 99% of all people, there's no premium for it. But remember, Medicare Part A, when you're working for a large employer, 20 or more on the payroll, moves to the second payer position. Your group plan still pays first. But Medicare will pay co-insurance. No deductibles, no co-pays, but it will pay co-insurance. So I would encourage you, as long as you don't have an HSA, please take Medicare A only. All right, that's line number one. Line number two has to do with switching plans. So many people today that once they go on Medicare just believe that because we have this open enrollment period that we just came out of, October 15th to December 7th, that they can just switch plans willy-nilly, do whatever they want as though there's no rules of switching plans. That is absolutely not true. There are rules to switching plans. And here's why it matters, because of this. The big rule is this. If you decide to go on Medicare A and B and you decide to be covered by a Medicare Advantage plan, about 53% of all of Americans today are selecting Advantage plans for their coverage. They're using their Medicare that way. And so if you are one that would decide to take an Advantage plan, what happens if you stay on that Advantage plan for a year or 2 or 3 or 4, 5 years or 10 years, whatever period of time, and then you want to get out of that system and go back to traditional Medicare A and B and get a supplemental plan, now you're going to have to medically qualify to make that move. And so what happens is people on an Advantage plan, they're on it for a period of time and like to get off of it, but now their health has changed. Maybe they've become a diabetic with complications. Maybe they have rheumatoid arthritis. Maybe they have AFib, or they've had cancer in the last couple of years. In other words, there are certain medical conditions, even medications that you take, where that supplemental company does not have to take you. And so many people think, well, I can just switch and I'll take the cheap thing now and I'll try to get something better later. Well, if your health has changed, you're not going to be able to make that switch. Now listen, when you first go on Medicare, there is no underwriting at all, meaning you can have a supplemental plan within 6 months of your Medicare B date with no underwriting. 6 months. And so you can apply 6 months in advance of the B date and still apply for a supplemental plan with no underwriting within 6 months after the B date. But after that window is closed in all but 5 states in the country for you to ever get a supplemental plan, now you're going to have to medically qualify. So if you have some health problems, you want to be sure that you take advantage of that period of time called the Medigap OEP, where you don't have to go through any medical underwriting. So don't believe the lie that you can just switch whenever you want to. Now, I want to clarify something. It is true that if you're on an Advantage plan, you can switch those without medical underwriting. It is true that if you're on a drug plan, you can switch those without medical underwriting. But the big issue comes for people that would like to have real premium quality insurance, meaning they want a supplemental plan, and now they've been on an Advantage plan for a year plus, and now they're going to have to medically qualify. So be sure you realize there are rules for switching plans. All right, number 3, and that would be this, and I alluded to this already, but I want to clarify it because we see a lot of people who make this mistake, and that is that they are retiring right around 65 or maybe a few months before, and part of the severance package for them was 12 months worth of insurance paid for by their previous employer, the one they're retiring from, and they'll provide insurance for them for 12 months, but what happens, it's COBRA Insurance. And so they liked the price because it's usually paid for by the company. But the problem is once you're Medicare eligible, that COBRA Insurance moves to the second payer position. And so if you don't enroll in a Medicare A and B at 65, if you're going to be covered by COBRA, then what happens is you become the first payer. You have to enroll in a Medicare A and B, put them in the first payer position, keep COBRA if you want to for a while. I wouldn't keep it any more than 6 months because of that qualifying Medigap rule. But if you do keep it, you want to make sure that you've enrolled in Medicare A and B because A and B pays first and COBRA only pays second. And if you don't enroll in A and B, you are the first payer. And I've seen many people make that mistake, and it's really very unfortunate. All right, let me just give you a quick bonus, and that's this lie. Some people think that because they take no medications or very low-cost medications, that there's no need to enroll into a drug plan. That is a lie. The first problem with that scenario is by not taking a drug plan because you take no meds or low-cost meds is you're only looking at today. I'm concerned about if you need something in 3 months or 6 months. And if your health were to change and you don't take a drug plan when you first go on Medicare, you can add one later with no underwriting, but you can only add it at a certain time of the year. And so if you miss that window of enrollment, now you're in a mess. And not only that, you're going to be penalized for not having a Part D plan. Now, the penalties are minimal, 1% for every month you go without, about 35 cents a month, but the problem is the risk you take by not having a drug plan. Hey, I have people regularly that come to us and they're on medications that cost $13,500 a month or $5,000 a month. That happens all the time. And if they're on a drug plan with Medicare now, beginning in 2025, the max out of pocket they'll spend for the whole year is $2,000. So don't look at today, be concerned about what happens if you were ill and needed expensive medication and you didn't have a drug plan. Now you're going to have to wait till you can add one later, and you're going to be out of pocket for those medications when you could have had a great plan with a max out of pocket of $2,000. All right, so I throw that in for the bonus, but those are the lies. Now listen, people that do business with us, they're not going to be deceived by these lies because all of our agents understand the things that I just shared with you. And that's why it's important to be sure that you get good advice, people that know what they're doing, that are not biased, but that come to you with good information to make sure that you're making great Medicare decisions. That really is the goal of our company, for you to be confident in the choices that you make about Medicare. All right, okay, Daniel, let's begin taking questions tonight. I'm ready. All right, Beth says, my husband has VA benefits. He's in a no copay category. We're thinking of stopping his Part B Medicare deduction. Is there any reason this would not be a good idea? Beth, I think it would be a fine idea. I would just tell you that some of the cautions that I would have if you decide to do that. And by the way, I don't blame you. But the problem is you don't know what VA is going to look like in the future. I hope it stays solid and there's no problems, and that's probably going to happen. It'll be good. But the risk you run would be if they were to change their system and you dropped B, and then if they changed it where you want to come back into B, you're still going to be penalized. And so for every 12 months we go without Medicare B when we should have had it or could have had it, then we're assessed a 10% penalty. So it is true, if the system does go haywire, you can still come back in and pick up B for sure, but you can only enroll the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, and there's a 10% penalty for every 12 months that you went without. That's the only risk that you're running. I wouldn't necessarily discourage you from doing this, especially since he's getting all of his service from the VA, but again, he's going to be required to do that if you go ahead and drop your Medicare Part B. So I think it's a fine decision. I just want to make sure you know there's a little bit of risk involved in case the VA were to change. All right, let's keep going. Julie, I have Champ VA and want to know, is it better to get a supplemental plan G or an Advantage plan? Okay, Julia, I would tell you that I think Champ VA is wonderful. And by the way, those of you that are viewing in, Champ VA is for either widows or widowers, or those who have spouses or ex-spouses that were in the military, or actually could have possibly, are now deceased. So it's kind of a special program for people that were not in, but their spouse or ex-spouse was. And so, Julia, that's a good program. And so, if my money is tight, or I'll just say if my money is somewhat tight, then I would recommend with the Chance VA to go ahead and just get a Medicare Advantage plan. And what that would be, Julia, is it's a Medicare Advantage plan only, MA only, because you can get your medications through the Champ VA program. And so I get your meds there, and that way when you do an MA only plan, meaning no Part D plan embedded because you already have coverage, then what you're going to see is you're going to get some kind of a reduction in your Medicare Part B premiums. Because the Medicare Advantage company does not have to pay for your medications, they don't take on that liability, then they will give you a credit towards your Social Security check. And so I think that's a wonderful option. Now, I like supplemental plans, I do, but because you're in the Champ VA system, I think you already have wonderful coverage. And here's the beautiful thing about you, is that if you decide that you don't want the Advantage plan any longer, you just want to have your A and B with your Champ VA, then every year during the Medicare open enrollment period, October 15th to December 7th, you can return back and just have A and B with Champ VA. But with the Champ VA, you're going to get some perks from the insurance company. Again, you're going to get that Part B reduction. And so I think there's some great benefits to that. But again, it's not a lifetime decision on that. You can always switch if you needed to. All right, let's keep going. Next, Bonita, I have a Cigna plan that does not cover bridges. Should I pay $60 per month for an AARP plan that pays half for implants, bridges, or get a UHC plan that pays half for bridges? Okay, well, $60 times 12 is $720. And so if you feel like that you're for sure going to need the bridge and you're going to get money back out of that, to me, I think that's a pretty good deal. I know when it comes to bridges, all the plans are going to pay 50-50. So if you're paying, if you've got a benefit of $2,500, then they'll pay up to that $2,500. So in my opinion, people that have some teeth issues, they're going to know they're going to use the plan. I think dental plans are a very good option. And again, I think you just have to decide which one of these AARP plans are within your budget. So I would do that. And it's all right to have two of them, because what will happen is they'll coordinate benefits between the two different dental plans. And by the way, we write dental plans. You want to call in, we could tell you some of the ones that we write and some of the ins and outs of your options there. All right, next. Lee. Thank you, Medicare School, for all the information provided here. It has made my Medicare nightmare journey so much easier to navigate. Thank you again, Marvin and company. Lee, thank you. We appreciate the encouragement here, as well as the opportunity to be able to serve as your Medicare broker. We count it a real privilege, and we want to help all that we can. Thank you, sir. All right, if I get a Medicare supplemental plan, are there any other plans that will help cover hearing aids? Not really. There are some what they call ancillary standalone dental vision hearing plans, but the hearing benefit is very minimal. Just very minimal. Now, here's the good news about hearing aids today. They no longer require prescription, so there's a lot of over-the-counter options that you have for hearing aids. But if you say, hey, I want to get a plan that's going to cover hearing aids, then you're going to have to get an Advantage plan, because they're the only ones that do that. Supplemental plans are not going to. Now, with the Advantage plans, you got to keep in mind they will have some kind of a hearing aid benefit, but it varies. Some plans will actually have a network of hearing aids and products that they cover, and they'll pay something, and then you have a copay. Others will let you decide who you want to use, and they'll set a limit. They'll say, we'll cover $1,500 per year per ear for hearing aids, or we'll cover $1,000. But again, it will be some kind of a copay structure, or it'll be just some kind of a reimbursement up to a certain limit. But supplemental plans are not going to cover them, and the standalones really are very, very minimal. Sorry about that. All right, let's keep. Is it worth joining AARP for better rates? Well, if you want United Healthcare anywhere in the country, you do have to be a member of AARP. Now, AARP is not an insurance company. They just simply endorse products and get a royalty for doing so. And so Medicare, United Healthcare and AARP are kind of hand in glove in the senior market. You cannot, in most states, get UHC supplemental plan without being a member of AARP. But keep this in mind, usually you only have to keep that membership for a year. But you got to start off and then, of course, be for a year. Now, I personally like United Healthcare as far as their supplemental plans go, because we have found them over the years to be very rate stable. That's not the only company we write. We write, actually, frankly, for lots of different companies. But I think AARP UHC is still a very good choice. Not the only, not the best. I'm not saying that, but I think it is a good choice in a lot of markets. All right, Daniel, who's next? Cynthia, so is it true that I can sign up for Medigap in March, which means I'm 3 years cancer-free? Thanks. Okay, Cynthia, Yes, usually. And just so you know, when we have to go through underwriting, we have what we call look-backs. There's certain health conditions that the company will say, in the last 24 months, have you had cancer? In the last 36 months, have you had cancer? And so if you've been cancer-free and treatment-free, then your cancer diagnosis will no longer affect you if the company looks back 36 months or 24 months. You should be fine. Now, if you're still taking some kind of maintenance medications for that, that could be an issue because you're supposed to be cancer-free and treatment-free. So based upon what you're sharing here, I'm assuming the answer to your question is yes, you can apply, and that previous cancer diagnosis will not be held against you. All right, next, Pratima, any indemnity plans out there that cover pre-existing conditions for MA patients? Not that I'm aware of. Now, there are some that could possibly cover for your hospital copays, but as far as cancer, stroke, those kind of type of issues, heart attack stuff, then if that's a pre-existing condition, you're not going to be able to add that rider to it. But if you're starting on an indemnity plan new to Medicare Advantage, then you have this window where there's no underwriting for hospital copays and maybe some other copays. But again, we write those plans per team. If you want to call in and then talk to our agents, they would give you a little bit more specific information based upon where you live, because these plans definitely vary state to state. Alrighty, Mark, I earned more than $20K this year. How can I expect to be penalized by Social Security and payback? Okay, well, let's break this down. So if you are between the ages of 62, of course you're probably on, I don't know if you're on Medicare yet or not. Let's just say anywhere between 62 up until December of the year before you turn your full retirement age. Got it? So from the age of 62 up until December, the year before you turn full retirement age, your earnings test this year at 2025 is $23,400. 2024, Daniel's about 22 grand, something like that, thereabouts. So if you're above that limit, then for every $2 above, they're going to penalize you $1 out of your Social Security check. Okay, so they set the limit, and again, I've already memorized the 2025 numbers, which is 23.4. I think this year it was 360. So if you're above that, for every $2 above, they withhold $1. And so you can expect that will happen. Now, if it's the year you turn full retirement age, that's about 3 times the amount, and the penalty is for every $3 above, they only take $1 out of your Social Security benefits. All right, so hopefully that's helpful. For those of you that are new to what he's talking about, this is called the earnings test. And so that means that anybody that is receiving Social Security before they hit their full retirement age is subject to an earnings test, and those limits are pretty low. And if we make money from our wages at our work, no other income, but wages and self-employment income, if we're above that, then that money above that actually can have an impact upon our Social Security benefits, called the earnings test. But if we get to our full retirement age, there is no earnings test. You can continue to take Social Security and make as much money as you want. But if I'm taking Social Security before full retirement age, then I am going to be subject to the earnings test, which is basically a penalty depending on how much money you make above that limit. All right, let's keep going. Hopefully that's helpful, Mark. Okay, Kevin, how do you coordinate switching from one sup to another sup plan to ensure there is no break in coverage date? Very, very simple. And so what would happen is if we are going to apply for a supplemental plan, let's say we're doing it today, and today is, what is the date, 19th or 20th or 19th, there we go. So if we were doing a supplemental plan application today, then what we would do is we would request an effective date for the new supplemental plan, either January or February. We could probably still do it by January 1. Holiday's a little bit slower, but point is we pick our effective date. So let's say if we said we want to start the new supplemental plan February 1. We submitted everything for underwriting. We got approval. Approval comes back. We would notify you, and then we would tell you to call your present supplemental company and cancel that old policy effective 2/1, and then your new one replace it, kicks in. Agents cannot cancel supplemental plans. You would have to do that, but we would help you with the timing of that. Now, if you want to start January 1, no problem. As long as we got our underwriting decision, we got a yes on that, then same thing. You'd call in and you'd cancel your policy effective 1/1, and then the new one would go into effect. So we coordinate all those dates to make that happen so there's no double payment. You never have to worry about that. That would be a total waste of money. We never set up a case where you had to pay 2 months. It's just totally unnecessary. All right, let's keep going. Pratima, again, what is your opinion regarding Zing Medicare Advantage plans? Well, I don't have an opinion because I'm not real familiar with them. If you wouldn't mind, if you want to just call in our office and ask for one of the agents, and the agents actually can pull those up. Zing would be fairly new to the market. I'd probably a regional plan. And I've been in this business 15 years, and so I've written a lot of plans, but I am not really up to date on that particular plan just because of the newness of it. So call in, Pratima, please, and let us talk to you about that. We'll kind of compare that with some other ones that may be in your market. All right, next, here we go. Is there a way to avoid Medicare coverage being retroactive for 6 months or reduce the duration of the retroactive period? No, there's not. And so what happens is you're talking about the Medicare A date. And so the way it works is when someone is going to keep working past 65 and they don't enroll into A, when you enroll into Medicare A, they actually backdate your Part A date for 6 months. Now, they'll never backdate it prior to your 65th birth month. But let's say I'm 67 and I enroll into Medicare A, they're going to back that A date up 6 months. All right, and so it becomes an issue because technically, once that A date is gone into effect, you should not be putting any money into your HSA. Now, frankly, the only people who really run into this problem is if you're maxing out. If you're maxing out every month, that could be an issue because you're only allowed to prorate the amount. But again, that's about right now about $430 a month. So if you're only putting in $100 a month, $200 a month, and they backdate the A date, just look at the total amount you were eligible for. And if you have overfunded it, then you can have your accountant correct that, make those adjustments so there's no penalties. All right, so it should not be an issue. So there's no way around the retroactive A date whatsoever. They're going to do that for sure. Let's keep going. All right, Kenneth, I plan to start Medicare on 1/1/2025, currently on my employer plan with an HSA. I thought I just heard you say HSA should be stopped 6 months ahead. Am I in trouble? Well, Kenneth, if your 1/1/2025 date is when you turn 65, you're not in any trouble whatsoever, okay? You're not. This just would be for people that decide they're going to keep working and they don't take Medicare and they keep contributing to their HSA, and then once they enroll, they backdate that A date 6 months. So again, if you're turning 65 and you're starting in January, it's a non-issue. You're fine to contribute all the way up until December, this month, no problem whatsoever. And again, now if you're alarmed because of what I said about the backdating the 6 months because you are older, then again, you need to, number one, find out how much could you put in and what would have been the the maximum amount that you can put in proration. And again, you should be able to put in all the way up till December unless your A date was prior to that. And I don't know what your A date is. You want to write in and let us know about that. But again, if you're turning 65 January, it's a non-issue. All right, let's keep going. Okay, Joseph says, which states allow changes to your supplemental plan without underwriting? Okay, there are a couple. It just depends. There's a couple different ways in which this happens. Let me first talk to you about the states that are open enrollment year-round, meaning you can change plans year-round. And that would be New York, Connecticut, and Vermont, and those 3 states. Maine and Massachusetts have some periods of time where you can switch. So let me say it again. New York, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts have some very unique rules about switching supplemental plans. And so that 5. Then the other ones that you could possibly switch, those states are called birthday rule states. And this means that right around your birthday, some states are 30 days before the birthday, 30 days after, some are 90 days from your birthday on, some are 60 days, so that's going to vary state to state. But during this birthday rule period, you can switch plans and companies usually. You can move from a G to a G or a G to an N, so it's like to like or like to less with no underwriting. And I'll rattle off the birthday rule states. Those would be California, in Oregon. State of Washington is 12 months year-round, like to less. Idaho, state of Nevada, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Maryland, Louisiana, Illinois, and then Missouri, similar, but it's called the anniversary. It's not tied to your birthday. It's tied to the effective date of your policy. That's called the anniversary rule. So those are your states. There's about a dozen of them. And again, when you want more information about that, call in, and we can assist in that process. All right, let's keep going. Here we go, William. I have a beach cabin that is outside of my MAPD area. Can I sign up for a supplemental plan using that address without underwriting? I live in Oregon, and I do have to file a change of address. Oh, boy. Okay, beach cabin that's outside of my MAPD area. Can I sign up for a supplemental plan using that address? Okay, here's the way it works. They say that wherever you are, 6 months and a day would be your official residence, your official physical address. So as long as you would fall underneath that parameter, then you can use your supplemental plan as your address. And again, you have to be receiving mail there, all those kind of things to be able to count that as your physical address. You can always use a separate mailing address like a P.O. box, but for physical address, that is possible as long as you're there 6 months and 1 day. All right? Okay, let's keep going. Mark, I have $2,000 out of pocket for meds. Does that mean I pay the actual price up to that point if a prescription costs $1,300 without insurance? Okay. No. Number one, the $2,000 cap only applies to medications that are covered by the plan. So if you're talking about $1,300, a prescription costs $1,300 without insurance. So Daniel, are you understanding this question? Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to establish the fact that you have to have the Part D plan. It has to be covered under the plan.
That's right. So if the $2,000 cap only applies to meds that are covered by the plan. What's throwing me off here, Mark, is when you're saying, well, that insurance. So if it's not in formulary, the $2,000 cap does not apply. If it's in formulary, then yes, it's $2,000 out of pocket. Now keep in mind, some of the times it's not even $2,000 totally out of your pocket. It's also what the plan is paying for some of your meds. All right, and so, but again, it could be a full $2,000, but that would be the max. But again, it has to be in formulary. And your little thing there about without insurance didn't make sense to me. That's why I'm confused, Mark. Let's keep going.
Kenneth was asking about HSA on 1125. He gave a little more information here.
Okay, I turned 65 on May 30th, 2024. I'm planning on starting Medicare 1120. I have going to be near max to my HSA. Okay, very good. Well, we can figure this out. So he turned, his birth date, Daniel, is May? Okay. Yeah, exactly right. So, of course, the bottom line is, hey, Kenneth, just look on your Medicare card, because I know you have to have that. What is the A date that they gave you? That's what matters. So look on your card and let us, chat back in. Let me know what your A date is, and then let's address this, okay, please. That matters. It's easy to answer your question if I know the A date. Let's keep going. Yeah, just watch for him, and I'm happy to help. Okay, I currently have insurance through the railroad retirement after my husband retired and was told it will end in February. One of this insurance is considered COBRA. Okay, after my husband retired and was told it will end in February. Okay, so I think what's happening is the reason, Janice, it's ending is because you must be Medicare eligible. I've never heard of someone losing their Railroad Retirement Board coverage because a husband retired. I've just never heard of that. So you're going to have to tell me more. Are you eligible for Medicare? Because if you are, then what's happening is your Railroad Retirement Board Medicare A and B is going to be in the first payer position, and then you're going to have to decide what you want to do as secondary insurance. Okay, so that definitely is going to be different. I know the railroad has certain plans, but we write for a lot of retired railroad people, so we can absolutely help that. So I don't know enough to answer your question until I know for sure how old you are and why it is you're losing the insurance. There has to be a reason for that. All right, let us know, and we'll continue with the question. All right, I understand Advantage plans, but I don't understand D, E, and F. Do I still need to get these plans? Okay, number one, technically, let's talk these through. D plans are drug plans. Pardon me? Oh, okay. Okay, so technically D plans are prescription drug plans. And so if you have an Advantage plan, then more than likely you have an Advantage plan that's going to have embedded or included a Part D plan. We call those MAPDs, Medicare Advantage, inpatient, outpatient, prescription drug plan, all in one. And that's what the majority of people of Advantage plans have. Now, if you're retired military, retired civil service, or have VA benefits, you wouldn't need a Part D plan. And so that's the D plan. That's the prescription drug component. The E plan, from Medicare standpoint, those would be supplemental plans, and there's 10 different options of those. F plan, you wouldn't be eligible for anyways unless you started Medicare before 1/1/2020. That's an F plan, which is a full coverage supplemental plan. But the only people who are eligible to have those today are those that started Medicare before 1/1/2020. And so the majority of people now that are getting supplemental plans are not getting F plans. They're getting G plan or N plan. Both are wonderful options. Okay, so hopefully that helps. And the question is, if you get an Advantage plan, do you need anything else? No, you don't. If you decide that you don't want an Advantage plan, then yes, you're going to need to get an A and B Medicare, get a G or N supplemental plan with a Part D drug plan. All right. I currently have Medicare Advantage. If I go back to work with health insurance and a group plan, do I still have to keep my Medicare Advantage plan? The answer is no. In fact, let me tell you what I would do. If you're going back to work and you're going to plan to work for a while and you have good coverage at work, and by the way, this would even apply if your spouse was the worker and going to be covering you, and it's good insurance, again, you're going to keep it for a while, then what I would do in this scenario is I would go ahead and disenroll from Medicare B, because that group plan is going to pay first anyways. Your Medicare is in the second payer position. So I would disenroll from Part B. For sure. And the way you do that is you fill out a form 1763. Part B is either called medical or supplemental. And so fill out the form 1763, terminating Part B, tell them the reason why you're returning to work, and then they will send you a new Medicare card, and you'll have A only, and then when you decide to retire and lose that group plan, then you can pick up Part B. And the key to this is be sure to have no coverage, no months without active employment provided plan, and it's a great option. In fact, I helped a guy do this today. I told him, drop the Part B, go back to work. It's fine. Then you can pick up B at a later date using this special enrollment period as long as you have no gaps, in your coverage. All right. Next. I turned 65 in May and still working, have insurance. Do I take A and B also? No, Pearl. No. Now, here's the key, Pearl. If you are covered by a group plan where there's 20 employees on the payroll or more, you don't have to do A and you don't have to do B. Now, if you're not contributing to an HSA, I would take A only, but you don't have to do B. Now, that being said, if you have a lousy group plan at work and you don't, in fact, right before I came in the studio, had a guy in the office that he's going to keep working, he has insurance, but it's a terrible plan. So he turned 65 in March and he's going on Medicare A and B and got a supplemental plan G and a drug plan, meaning he's still going to keep working, but that group employer plan is lousy, very expensive and lousy coverage. So if you have a good group plan at work, do A only, unless you have an HSA. All right, so that's, you don't have to take either one of those, but I would still do A only if I don't have an HSA. Okay.
Similar, you kind of just covered this.
I'm 65 as of November 24, still working. I chose to start A in November and B in January and cancel my employer's insurance. Can I do this? You certainly can. You can. But I would encourage you, don't have just A and B only. You want to have something else. I mean, I personally, if I were in your position, if you can afford a supplemental plan, G or an N, that's what I would do. But if you don't want to do that, at least enroll into an Advantage plan, because the very worst option of someone going on Medicare is to have A and B only. There's too much risk. You're liable for all the 6 Medicare gaps. That's a lot of money if you had a serious illness. So there's 3 ways we can use Medicare. We can do A and B only, we can do A and B with a supplemental plan, or we can do an Advantage plan. So A and B only is the last worst option in my opinion. So I do a supplemental plan if you could. If you can't afford it, do an Advantage plan. All right. Hannah, can dialysis person with diabetes get Medicare supplemental insurance? Okay, well, when you first go on Medicare at 65, yes. because you have what's called a Medigap open enrollment period that's tied to your B date. So Anna, look at your Medicare card, and if you're still within 6 months of your B date, either you haven't started or you're still within 6 months after the B date, you can get that because there's no underwriting allowed in that scenario. But if your B date is beyond that, then you're not going to get a supplemental plan unless you live in New York, Connecticut, Vermont, and then a couple times a year, Maine and Massachusetts allows you to come in with certain plans. But everywhere else, after 6 months of the B date, you will not be able to get a supplemental plan because you will not be able to go through underwriting. And that's why those of you that are watching this, you do not want to miss the 6-month window that's tied to your B date. You can apply 6 months before and then 6 months after B date, and you can get a supplemental plan, no underwriting. They have to cover your pre-existing conditions. It's a wonderful time to get a supplemental plan. All right, next. What's the full retirement age? Well, depends on when your birth date is. Anyone born from 1960 thereafter, full retirement age is 67. Okay, 1960 on, it'll be 67. Now, if you're born between 1943 and 1954, which I'm sure you're probably not, you would have had a full retirement age of 66. That's between 1943 and 1954. And then after 1954, they started adding 2 months to everyone's full retirement age. So if you're born in 1955, your full retirement age is 66 and 2 months. 1956, they added 4 months. 1957, they added 6 months. 1958, 8 months. 1959, 10 months. And then 1960 thereafter, it's a full 67. So those are the timelines. All right, can you talk about premium increase for supplemental plans over the recent history and project to the future? All right, well, I'll say this first off. Across the board, we have seen supplemental increases in the neighborhood of about 10 to 15%. I'd say average has been about 12%. And the reason for that was just because rates were fairly stable until after COVID. During the COVID years, people were not getting a lot of services. They were kind of delaying. And then in 23 and 24 this year, people back to it. Of course, getting those surgeries and those kind of things. So that has bumped up the rates for sure. Now, as far as the future goes, we think we'll see some more stability than what we had this year for sure. But again, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know. There's been a lot of inflation. We all know that. So if that inflation stuff will come down and we can get a little better grip on inflation, I don't think we'll see quite the increases that we have experienced. So that's my position. I'm hopeful that this inflation will get under control so that they will stabilize. I will tell you this, there are some carriers that are more stable than others. And so we try our best to look at the history of these carriers and what they've done in the last 10 years. It's not guaranteed what they'll do in the next 10 years, but we do like to look back to give us a feel for how stable a company is. We also find that carriers that are more national versus regional, where they have larger blocks of business, more policy holders within the group, they tend also to be more stable. All right. Okay, will withdrawing from your IRA affect your Social Security from being taxed, and how much would be taxed? Okay, yes, it will. Because when it comes to what is called provisional income, because your provisional income numbers is what determines how much of your Social Security income is taxable. Now, by the way, no one pays income taxes on 100% of their Social Security income. No one. The ranges are 0, 50%, or 85%. And so that's called provisional income. And so Joseph, let's just say you're single, and your numbers for single are $25,000 provisional income or less, 0 is taxable. 25 to 34,000, 50% of your Social Security is going to be taxable, subject to income taxes. And then if you're above that $34,000 number, 85% of your Social Security will be taxable. So obviously if you're pulling your IRA withdrawals, that is going into the provisional number, because provisional income is your modified adjusted gross, AGI plus tax-exempt interest, plus 50% of your Social Security. So they take that total number and then put it to the chart. So 0%, 50%, or 85%. Now if you're married, the number is 32,000 or below 0. 32 to 44, 50% of Social Security is taxable. If you're above 44,000 as a married couple filing a joint return, 85% of your Social Security income will be subject to just standard income taxes. All right, hope that helps. That's the way it works. Okay, yeah, turning 65 in January, retiring March 1st. My union benefits automatically enroll me in the Blue Shield of California Advantage. Is it good to stay with them? Thank you. Well, Ed, maybe. One of the issues with Advantage plans or a couple of issues you're going to have to be comfortable with, and that is that that Blue Cross Blue Shield Advantage plan is going to have a pre-authorization right. All Advantage plans, the companies are given the right to approve services and the right to deny services. So your doctor makes a recommendation. If Blue Cross Blue Shield agrees with that, then that's going to be covered. If they don't agree, it's not covered, or they may delay it. They may say, we're not going to cover hip replacement right now. We want you to go to therapy for 9 months. Or you need a full hip replacement, but we're only going to pay for a rod. Or you need a knee replacement. We don't agree with that right now. We want you to try, shots in the knee. So there's things that can happen with Advantage plans as far as your healthcare services, because the Advantage company has the final say-so. And that's a big issue right now, of course, going on in our country. They can delay and they can deny, and we see that way too often. So with that company Advantage plan, you're going to have to live with that. Secondly, what's going to happen, you're going to have networks. And again, Blue Cross may have a wonderful network where you are, so that may be a non-issue. But you're going to have to go to network providers. If someone has a supplemental plan, they can go anywhere that takes Medicare. So my whole point is you need to really come to grips with how the Advantage plan works before you decide if that's what you want. And know they automatically enroll in you because it's better, for them. But if you're concerned about pre-authorizations and you're concerned about networks and you're concerned about being on that Advantage plan permanently, if your health were to change, then you may not want to take that option and just get a traditional supplemental plan. We ride in California, so we're very familiar with these plans. So it's difficult for me to give you a dogmatic yes or no answer on this until I know really more about your situation and where you really understand how these insurance options are going to work. So Ed, I'd recommend calling in. All of our agents are licensed in California, and we'd be happy to make comparisons for you, and we'll be honest with you about our recommendation. Okay, if I have Plan G with UHC, want to switch to Humana Plan G because the monthly premium is lower, do I have to go through medical underwriting? Well, Glenn, it just depends on where you live. And so if you live in California, Oregon, or Washington, you can make that switch. California and Oregon would be around your birthday. If you live in Idaho, you can make the switch, no underwriting. If you live in Nevada, Missouri at certain times, Oklahoma, Illinois, Louisiana, Maryland, and Kentucky, those states there, then you can switch from UHC to Humana. I would tell you this, and I'm not recommending anything, but my opinion is that long-term stability of UHC is probably going to be greater than long-term stability of Humana. Humana may enter into a market with a lower rate now, but not so sure in 5 or 10 years that that's going to hold. It may. I hope it does for you. But I've seen things like that happen before because Humana is not going to have near the market share that a United Healthcare would be. Not discourage you from the move. I'm just saying to you, think that through. Don't just look at that initial premium. I'd be real concerned about that block of business long term. We find that people with United Healthcare are typically very happy when they're 80 and 85 years old because their rates have been more stable in the long run than what a lot of the other carriers are. All right, let's keep going, Daniel. Michael, do I get taxed if I am on disability? I'm going to tell you, I am not a real expert for disability. I do not know that you would be exempt. My understanding is that the provisional income applies for anyone that's receiving Social Security disability, Social Security widower benefits, Social Security retirement benefits. I think the calculation is still the same. Now keep in mind, Michael, if you're single and below, you make less than $25,000, modified adjusted gross provisional income, or married and below $32,000, then zero of your money is going to be taxable anyways. And so it just depends on where you're falling in there. But just by saying because you're on disability, I don't think you're going to be tax exempt. I've never heard of that. Let's keep going.
From looking it up, it looks like it's the same rules.
Same rules. Okay, yeah. Daniel, our producer, looked it up real quick, Googled it, and what I said was accurate. Okay. Can a hospital charge you more services on Medicare with G plan? And the answer is no. Services were paid by Medicare and G plan, but still a balance due. Well, Denny, my initial reaction is that you're either on a G plan or an N plan, and you have not yet met, maybe you haven't met your deductible. So if there's a balance with the G or N plan, it would only be that B deductible. Now, if you're an N plan, there could be excess, but again, hospitals can't charge excess. So I think if there's anything that balance is due, it's going to be applied to your deductible, or the dust is not totally settled yet. And then once it's settled and everything's gone through fully, then there should be no balance, especially on the G plan. You meet your B deductible, you're done for the year. Okay, but they cannot charge you more because you have a G plan. There's a flat rate called the reimbursement rate. That's called the fee-for-service rate. So it's already been predetermined. In fact, even if you didn't have a Medicare supplemental plan, they're not going to be able to charge you extra. That is etched in stone and established by Medicare. All right, Dennis, how can I find out if my current insurance is creditable when they won't tell me? Okay, well, for now, what I would do is I would assume that it is. I know you're probably uncomfortable with that, but the majority of plans are considered to be credible for 2025. That could change in 2026. I'm sorry they won't tell you, but normally, because what happened is we were really concerned about this credible coverage when the Part D plan changes were made, but then the government said to all the insurance companies, okay, we'll give you another year to work this out. And so most of them are still considered credible for this year. So wouldn't panic over it if you can't get the information. I would assume it is for now. Go ahead. All right. If this is your first time enrollment and your birthday is in 3.5 months, how long do you have? Okay, well, 3.5 months. So what are we talking about? April? Would that be right? April? Birthday? So if your birthday is April, you just back up the clock, 3, 2, 1. So anytime after January 1, you can enroll into Medicare. You need a myssa.gov account, and you can go in and you can enroll into Medicare online A and B. Now keep this in mind for you and really anyone. If you want some help getting enrolled in Medicare, our agents do it all day long. I mean, we're happy to assist in that process. I did one today myself. And so we're happy to enroll people into Medicare A and B. All you have to do is have a myssa.gov account. If you don't have one, I would use the login login.gov system. There's ID Me and login.gov. They're primarily now wanting people to do login ID, so I'd set that up there. You'll give me email, username, password, all that information to log in each time. So set that up, and then if you want us to help you with your A and B enrollment, we can do that, or you can, of course, do that yourself through that same site. So after January 1st. All right, Christina, excuse me. I'm 67. I've been on Plan A and B since laid off. I'm going back to work 1/6/2025. It's a large company. Insurance premiums only $6. Should I drop both Plan A and B? Well, number one, Christina, you can't drop Medicare A. The only people that can drop A are those that have to buy it, and that's only 1% of the population. So once A has gone into effect, you cannot drop it unless you're paying for it. I doubt you are. And so you're not going to drop A. Now, what I would recommend doing, though, if you go back to work and you have this $6, that's wonderful. So I would drop the Medicare Part B if it were me, especially if you're going to work for a while. Drop the B. You fill out a form called the 1763. Part B is called either medical or supplemental. So drop the Part B, tell them why you're doing it. You're going back to work. Make that effective as soon as your group plan is going to go into effect. And you have to get that paper, 1763, it's CMS 1763, to your local Social Security office to drop that Part B. So I'd highly recommend you do that. Alrighty, I've been told that I have to have supplemental insurance if I have straight Medicare. Is this true? No, it's not true. Now, in my opinion, I think it's a good choice. I like supplemental plans. I think they're high quality insurance. You have to have a premium, you have to afford a premium for them, but they're high quality medical insurance. So about having to have one, the answer is no. And so if you enroll in A and B, you can also do the alternative to that, or the replacement plan called Medicare Advantage. And I like Medicare Advantage plans if people cannot afford a little extra each month for a supplemental plan. Okay? And by the way, this is not just my opinion. Anyone that's been in this business for a while knows that Medicare supplemental plans are high quality insurance. Advantage plans are still good insurance, but I wouldn't call them high quality. And the reason is because they don't function like a supplemental plan functions. Supplemental plans, no networks. Advantage plans, always a network. HMOs, PPOs. Supplemental plans go to any provider that you want to go to as long as they take Medicare. Supplemental plans never interfere or at all with any health care coverage. If Medicare pays, they have to pay. Supplemental Advantage plans, can deny coverage or delay coverage. It just happens all the time. Supplemental plans are permanent, portable. You enroll into a plan, it's yours for the rest of your life as long as you pay the premium. Advantage plans are 1 year at a time. Companies come and go. Networks change year to year. The plan can get better or get worse. With supplemental plans, that just doesn't happen. Premiums can go up, but the coverage is never going to change. You pull out that supplemental card with A and B card anywhere in the country, coverage is the same. You have your Advantage card, you pull it out, hopefully you'll get to use it and without any kind of problems, and that's just the reality of it. All right, so I think there's a place for Advantage, but for those of you that can afford a little extra, I would get a supplemental plan for sure. I'm 1 year for Medicare now. I'm going to get a supplemental plan for sure. I can afford a little extra premium, and you always get what you pay for. So I would just soon get quality insurance, and that to me would be a supplemental plan. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, so you sent us a several messages. We said I'm retiring 7/1/25.
Mm-hmm.
That's 6/25. When should I start my application, and then should I consider A and B only as pre-existing conditions?
Okay, well, Dave, I would never do A and B only. I just would not. If you can't afford a supplemental plan, get a Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage, in my opinion, is tons better than A and B by itself, okay? At least you have a max out-of-pocket established and you have a drug plan that's embedded, okay? So I definitely would do that. So don't do A and B only, please. Get an Advantage if you can't afford a supplemental plan. Now, let's go back to the date. He said 7, so back it up 6/5/4, and so 6/5/4. So you can apply 3 months in advance. So you can apply after April 1. April 1, that system opens up for you. And now if you're on Social Security, you're going to be automatically enrolled. You'll get your card in March. But if you're not, then 4/1 on, you can apply for Medicare A and B and then get your other insurance set up as well. 4/1. Okay, good. Do doctors favor patients that are in their Advantage plan, or do they favor Medicare supplemental patients? I would say this, that 99% of all doctors are grateful when you are on a supplemental plan, okay? Because they don't have to have any interference from that Advantage plan. They just don't. They love supplemental plans because they don't have pre-authorizations. They're actually paid better. Medicare pays really quickly. Supplemental plans pay quickly as well. Advantage plans certainly pay slower. That's why a lot of doctors and hospitals dropped them in this year. But there are some, and again, about maybe 1 or 2% of doctors that prefer Advantage, and the reason is because the Advantage company owns them. That's just the way it works. And so if that Advantage plan owns that practice, then of course that doctor is going to say that's all we're going to take. And there's a few of those like that. And again, why? Well, they're in bed together. I mean, they are. They're together, so they're going to take it. But doctors that are not bought and owned by the insurance company are happy when you have a supplemental plan. No problems. All right, I'm a state employee and will have health care coverage at a group rate when I retire in 2 years at age 66. Do I have to sign up for Medicare? Absolutely. Now, you don't have to sign up for Medicare until you retire, but once you retire, then that group plan that they're making available to you is going to be the second payer. You have to enroll into A and B to put them in the first payer position, and if you don't do that, you're the first payer. All right, so, but again, until you retire, it's a non-issue. But once you retire, guarantee you that group plan pays second. Okay, Barbara, how much is the penalty for getting a Part D plan 3 months after getting Medicare, as I didn't sign up right away for it, unfortunately? Well, Barbara, you may not have a penalty. Here's the way it works. Let's just say, let's keep it simple. Let's say that someone is turning 65 in January, and that's when they could start their Medicare, 1/1/2025. They could still enroll February, March, April for a May 1 start date. So there's 3 months after we turn 65, we can still enroll. Now, if we're beyond that window, number one, you're not going to be able to get a plan until the Medicare open enrollment season. But as long as you're within that 3 months after your birth month, you're still fine. And so if you are, you can still enroll this month. and your plan would start in January, and there still would be no penalty at all. The penalties do not start until that 4th month after your birth month. Okay, I'm newly retired from USPS. I plan to stay on myself +1 and do Medicare when 65. Good idea. You know, Dane, probably so. Honestly, with all the changes the Postal Service has made with their plans, I am not totally up to date. I know some of our agents on the floor are. They would, but it may be just fine. So newly retired, spend myself +1. If you're happy with that coverage of what the Postal Service is offering you, then I'm going to say yes to that, because again, Medicare is going to pay first, the postal plan is going to pay second. My question to you is, what's it cost you to be on the plan? What's the max out of pocket, and what's all that look like? I certainly, if I were you, Dane, take the time to compare what a normal supplemental plan with a drug plan would cost you versus the USPS, because I know that the agents on the floor have been telling me that we've been writing a lot of postal workers lately. So that tells me that postal worker plan may not be the greatest. Now, one of the issue you may be dealing with is cell +1. So that means if your spouse is younger than you, not Medicare eligible, then that may be enough to say, hey, you're going to have to take that plan option unless your spouse has somewhere else to go to get other insurance. So we'd have to bring that into that equation as well. But again, call the office and we'll tell you what's going on in the market. We'll also tell you what options could be for your spouse. All right. Okay, my husband retires at 66, 10 months. And I'll just be 65 and not working. Will I have to start on Medicare then, and I will be penalized for taking it earlier? Will I be able to take half of his? Okay, he retires at 66 and 10 months. You're going to take Social Security. I'll just be 65, not working. I'll have to start on Medicare. Will I have to start on Medicare then? Well, if your husband is going to retire and you're not working, yes, you're going to have to start your Medicare at 65 for sure. Okay. Now the penalization here, you're talking about half of his. Now you're talking about Social Security. So yes, if he's no longer working and you're not working, you have to start Medicare at 65. Now, as far as Social Security goes, what happens is you'll be eligible to take a spousal benefit for sure, but you are going to take a reduction. And so here's the way it works. Spousal benefit reduction is 9.375% less per year for the first 3 years. So you're at 65, so you're going to lose 9.375% times 2, so about almost 19% of whatever he is eligible for at his full retirement age. So if he's eligible for $3,000, 50% is $1,500 less penalty. So you will be penalized for sure. Now, you don't have to take spousal yet. Wait until you hit your own full retirement age, and then you would get a full 50% of what he was eligible for at his full retirement age. But if you take it before yours, you are penalized. It's a stiffer penalty than on our own benefit. All right, let's keep going. I am 67 years old, receiving Social Security payments and benefits. I've been thinking about going back to work full-time. How will working full-time affect my Social Security payments? Okay, well, it will not affect anything whatsoever, because now that you're full retirement age and beyond, there's no impact at all. You can make as much money as you want at work, any other means, and your Social Security check is not going to be impacted. Now, when you do go back to work, what happens is you're going to start paying Social Security taxes. And so it could be that every year they could go back in and readjust your numbers, and that may actually help you. You may get an increase to your Social Security benefits if some of the money you're making now is greater than what it was in previous years, because they always take the top 35 years. So you may be able to replace some of those lower earnings 35 years, and they'll recalculate that each year, and you may see an increase. So it's fine, but don't stop taking Social Security if you don't want to. It's fine to do it. There's no earnings test once we hit full retirement age. All right, what is your point of view on how the public should be educated on this extremely complicated Medicare system so they can make informed decisions? Well, my opinion is go to our website or go to our YouTube channel. I think people should not make any kind of Medicare decision until they fully understand what they're getting into. Hey, I know how it is. You talk to most agents, they're ready to ramrod an Advantage plan down your throat because they make double the commission. We truly make double the commission on Advantage plans versus supplemental plans. So that's why they promote them. It's in their best interest, but it's not always in yours. And so get educated. Don't just look at the premiums. Look at how is my insurance going to work if I get cancer? What happens if I want to get off this plan and switch to another? What are the rules? And so you can go to our YouTube channel, and I've got hundreds and hundreds of videos that Daniel and I have done over the last couple of years. You can learn everything you need to know about Medicare, and then you can also call in, and we're happy to assist once you feel like you got a good base foundational education. So that's my opinion. Get educated and use our channel. We'd be delighted for you to go there, subscribe, and learn all you need to know. Okay, let's keep going. All right, what deductible is there on a G plan? There's one deductible. It's called the Medicare B deductible. And this year, that is $240 once a year. That deductible resets every January, so next year it's going to be $257. So here's a way to look at it. If you're getting a service covered by Medicare, the only out-of-pocket that you are for the whole year is your B deductible. You pay the premium to your G plan, they cover everything else. Medicare pays, G plans pays everything but the Medicare B deductible. Again, next year, $257 once a year. All right, let's keep going. Okay, does being taxed on Social Security disability income levels include Roth IRA withdrawals as well? And the answer is yes, it does. It does. Because the provisional income calculation is your modified adjusted gross, which is all the income coming in, everything, plus tax-exempt interest, plus 50% of your Social Security benefits. Okay, so that combined number, provisional income, is what will then determine how much of your Social Security benefits are subject to taxes. All right, so yes, it does affect it, for sure. Because they look at all your income. What is the best way to compare G plans? Well, call our office. We'd be delighted to go through that. We have another site. Yeah, you can also go to medigapcompare.com. Yeah, medigapcompare.com. That's a great site. It's ours. You can go there and put in your information, and you look at everything on the market. You can actually even self-enroll if you want to. No problem at all. You'll have to see my mug there. I do some teaching on that site, but medicarecompare.com. Great place to go. Or if you want to talk to somebody, just call the office. You see the 800 number there, and we'd be delighted to walk you through those different options in your area.
Okay, that's it.
That's it. Okay, folks. Hey, we're glad that you joined us. Please subscribe, follow us, anything. We'd love to continue to reach out to you, let you know when we continue with these events. We'll host them on a regular basis. Have a great evening.